Okay, I am back, and so are you, so let us proceed. What I've been talking about, at least during the first half of the podcast, was the very real concern now by journalists, government officials, social scientists who are aware of the rise of fascism and then Nazism in both Italy and Germany in the 20s and 30s, and how close we are to it today. Also on Morning Joe, I think it was this morning, the founder of Axios, the website Axios, Jim VandeHei, he followed up on his own reporting also from today at his website about what he has called a growing army, that's his word, army of Trump loyalists who are being vetted a year before the election, and the plan is to descend on Washington, D.C. immediately after the election in 2024, no matter who wins. Now, the VandeHei, according to published reports, he appeared concerned, and he was talking to Scarborough about the piece he co-authored with the co-founder of Axios, Mike Allen. And Jim VandeHei was describing efforts to recruit these Trump cult members who would take over running the government after the orange bastard finishes his purging, getting rid of people, civil servants, people who are career employees who know how to run the government, who know how to run various departments of the government. I'm not talking about the policymakers. I'm talking about the people in the trenches who keep this country running, who have kept the country running. Even with the rise of Nazism, they continue to work. And VandeHei was using his reporting, and this is what he said, quote, hundreds of people, now listen to this closely because this was shocking to me. Hundreds of people are spending tens of millions of dollars to install a pre-vetted pro-Trump army of up to 54,000 loyalists across government to rip off the restraints imposed on the previous 46 presidents of this country. And VandeHei painted an even darker picture than what he had in this piece at Axios when he was talking to Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. He said, quote, we always get sidetracked by the rhetoric that Trump uses. He's being very, very specific with us about what he's going to do. We have reporting this morning that what's different if he wins is that he's going to come into office with an army of 40 to 50,000 people ready to staff the government. He's not going to have the restraints of cabinet officials who disagree with him. He's going to do everything he can to purge anybody who's professional staff who have been there a long time and have a year's worth of vetting, people who are already there. They're asking people about their ideology, books they've read, name one figure who you believe captures your spirit, your political philosophy. I think the obvious answer there for a lot of them is going to be Trump. And if you answer Trump, you pass the loyalty test. Then they can put you into the bowels of government where the action happens. End quote. Jim VandeHei. And there was more. He added this, quote, it's one thing to have rhetoric. It's another thing to take the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, and put in those organizations people who believe what Trump believes, so that you can do the things that he says he's going to do. So I won't assume, VandeHei goes on, he's saying these things with bombast. He'll come in hell-bent on doing it, and this time it will be much more organized government to be able to do it, which is why I think this is the most important election of our lifetime, because the contrast is massive, and both sides would come in with teams ready to do what they want to do. End quote. Now, I think it goes without saying that the Biden team came into government with an idea of what they wanted to do. And the first thing that the Biden government did, as far as I know, is not try to rip up the Constitution. You know, I said the first thing they did, and then I give you a negative. Well, the first thing they didn't do, let me put it that way, was to try to rip up the Constitution, which is exactly what the Trump son of a bitches will do if they get power again. Precisely what they'll do. A second Biden administration would come in with an army of civil servants who are already there, who would continue to do the work of government. And I think a second Biden presidency, given the people that he would have around him, would be designed to try to strengthen this democratic republic, not destroy it. And the terrible part here is in the destruction. What will replace our struggle to live up to the Constitution? What will replace it? Well, to answer my own question, it's very obvious. What's going to replace it is the total destruction of the Constitution and implementing fascism. It's very, very simple. Now, I know at times I do sound like, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. But based on what I observe, what I talk about, what I've seen over the past 3 decades, I don't see myself as someone running around screeching, the sky is falling. I really don't. Any more than I see anybody else. And there are people with audiences 100 times bigger than my group here, thank you, who are saying the same thing. There are people with national platforms, people who work for newspapers and television networks, who are saying essentially the same thing. Now, granted, they don't say it with as much angry rhetoric as I do, but the same thing is being said. And the only thing that gives me any hope at a time when it's easy, very easy to be hopeless, the only thing that gives me hope is that I keep thinking this vast majority of people in this country who don't screech and scream about our approach to fascism, that this vast majority, working Americans, by working Americans, I mean working in their daily lives to try to live up to, at least beyond their own little prejudices, to try to live up to what this democratic republic stands for. That this vast majority of people, although they're silent, will not let this happen. Will not let this orange son of a bitch take this country into the hell of fascism. That's my hope. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical Talk Radio Network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.